I got Julia smiling and exercising here. Come on, Julia. Punch your bloody hell. We got to zoom you in a click. There we go.
That's terrible.
You're in a good mood. The market's up. You made a lot of money. Have you bought your jet yet?
It's on order.
It's on order. We're live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. As usual, here on Tuesday's show, Tuesday, the 22nd of April, it is Earth Day, hence Julia's green scarf, my green shirt. We're trying to be politically correct here as we wind down our intro video of the 12 meters, thanks to Gary Jobson, the 12-meter class, and so on. Appreciate them and all of you, in fact, tuning in. Appreciate you all very much. It is show number 827, and here is the starting line. Happy Tuesday and happy, well, I just said it, salt of the...
Sea.
No, Earth.
Earth.
Salt of the Earth Day. It's Earth Day here around the world. Trust you had a happy Easter and the passing of the Pope. We'll note that sad turn of events, but not exactly a surprise. And hope springs eternal for our sport. We certainly hope so. More on, there's a graphical error. Artificial? What the hell is artificial, Julia?
Oh, it's the first cousin of artificial.
Artificial intelligence in our beloved sport and beyond. What will AI replace in sailing? We have a Fozy focus on Russell Green and Harry Price.
Wow.
And a Kiwi and an Aussie. Another update on the 2028 Olympic venue. The LA Yacht Club is pushing for San Pedro or so. Yes, that's what we're hearing now. John Emmett with his latest and greatest coaching corner. More advice on, well, how to get ahead, not only on the race course, but in life. AC38, the latest from Andy Rice, Magnus the Magnificent, and more. Last leg, we're going to celebrate the Ficker Cup, which starts Friday. That's the the qualification regatta for the 60th Congressional Cup, which, of course, starts next week. And look back at some of the cool skippers who raced in that event over the now many years of the granddaddy of them all, the Congressional Cup, Julia. We, of course, have Day in History, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and our fantastic Fozy chat, and much more. Speaking of whom, we have Fritz Mueller checking in from Miami, where it's balmy. Well, it is. It's April. It's about to be hot and humid down there, steamiest maybe. Right. Blake Middleton, one of our regular contributors via Patreon. He's a patron. Blake Middleton up in 66 degrees Fahrenheit in Minneapolis.
Wow.
Must have long since removed the ice from the lakes up there. Greg Phillips in the Gold Coast of Oz. Gordon Smith in Denmark. Denise Ross Peterson in Annapolis. Alistair Murray, President Emeritus of Sailing Australia, is in Meetong, his vacation home there outside of Melbourne, Australia. Alan Long, hello all. It's boat launch season here in the Northern Hemisphere, at least, and around the Great Lakes and there, and he's back up in Cleveland, northeastern Ohio. Clay Embley down in Kentucky. He's in the boat shop rigging a mast and listening to SI, sending greetings to all. Rick Bannerow in sunny, warm Connecticut. Mark Holland is going to be on the show, Julia.
Oh, good.
We teed up a date. I think it's the 9th. I think it's the 9th of next month. Mark's going to come on and talk about his compendium, his America's Cup compendium. Ed Worley will like that segment because he is an America's Cup historical buff and expert himself. He's here in NorCal with us, as is Don Lunabos, who's up across the bridge in Sonoma in wine country. Andrew Pendar, excuse me, do you offer technical tuition to retired senior vascular surgeon types? Yeah, I know that Andrew McIrvin's looking for I don't know why he couldn't find the link to on Facebook. Maybe others of you couldn't as well.
Try Facebook.
Say again, Julia?
Try Facebook.
Well, Facebook or YouTube.
YouTube is automatic.
Yeah, well, but there is Larry is on. Hello from FIDI, WD-40 up is up $5. Okay. With Alan Long, I wrote my email. Rick Bannerow, AI might replace SI's graphics. Yeah, we could only hope, Rick, that it did do that.
Ought to do that.
Peter Stevenson, a.k.a. Pedro Foiling Sailor, is here. Andrew McIrvin, he did find us. Hi, y'all from London.
Andrew, I'm so glad.
And he's on Facebook, Julia. You must have helped him out with that link. Andrew, when Julia said she's on her phone, and I'm trying to get her to fuck us on the show in the last 15 minutes, and Andrew's pinging you. I guess you saw his text. I can't find the Facebook link, and I'm here still in my New York Yacht Club bathrobe. I haven't been into hair and makeup. I'm under the pressure of the deadline of getting us on the air. And I said, tell Andrew to go to hell if he can't.
No,
I didn't say that.
No, you didn't.
If he can't find the link, bloody hell.
It is hard. Every once in a while I get an old reference and wander around.
Wander around. That's why I need Julie to exercise. Pump your wrist. Come on, Julie. Here we go. You ready? You are my sunshine, my own. You got to get our old brains connected with our mouths so we can get this show on the road. Alistair Murray, yes. Me tongue. I've had coaching from Aussies on how to pronounce that. Bill Wingrove's checking in normally from Tampa, Florida. Nice to see Bill back on. The work thing is becoming a problem. People ask, Julia, why do we do this show on an afternoon, Tuesdays and Fridays? Well, it gives me Monday to prepare the Tuesday show. It gives me a day off on Wednesday to do technical stuff. Thursday to prepare the Friday show.
Right.
And we need the day ahead of time to prepare the show. But why do you do it at 1300?
Yeah,
it's because those of you in Europe can still watch before you go to bed. It's, +9 on the continent. So it's 2200 in Europe this time of year. In fact, it is most of the year. It's just when we're not on daylight time or they are and, whatever. And then it's still, they're up and at 'em the next day in Australia and New Zealand, where it's -5 this time of year. In Auckland, it's, 0806 there in the morning at 0606 in Sydney and on the east coast of Oz. Forget about Perth. They're either, when we have somebody on from Perth, Julia,
yes.
It's either somebody who's just coming in, one of the young guys, we won't mention who, he's off and on here, but it's not because he's getting up early at 0300, it's because he's just coming in.
Right.
Yeah, right.
As one should.
As one should. Time is perfect for us, Andrew McIrvin is saying. Steve Atkins is always working on the boats, this time of year. And indeed, Alan Long, I'm sorry, Facebook's been a bit funny of late, but we've had a good go with Facebook and also with YouTube. Let's, speaking of good goes, let's carry on with this show. We hope you all had a fantastic Easter. Mm-hmm. Speaking of AI, I assume I thought it was Photoshopped when I first saw it, Julia, but others tell me that it's AI. I found it on a gentleman's Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And he got it from somewhere else, but it's a fantastic Easter spinnaker, is it not?
It is.
Easter egg spinnaker. I assume it's AI. Speaking of Easter, Julie was here on Easter afternoon. She came down from the Commodore Suite.
For great ribs.
And we had ribs cooked. It's one of the two things I know how to cook, Julia. Uh-huh. They look burned, but they're actually not. They're just nice and crispy and glazed coming out of the oven after 2 hours at 325 degrees. As I said, it's one of the very few things I know how to cook. That and a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah.
Maybe scrambled eggs.
Get you through.
You look great in your yellow sweater, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
And there was that box with a bee on it is Julia's Easter present.
Yes.
From the best Bäckerei, as the Germans would say, the best bakery here in San Francisco called the Bee Patisserie, and that was a little thing. Julia, in turn, gave me this. I love milk chocolate, which I only eat twice a year on Easter and on Christmas. And I always eat the ears off first because of this cartoon. My butt hurts, the one bunny is saying. And the other one is saying, what? That cartoon is as old as the hills, and I remember it from my youth, I guess. And that's why I always start with the ears. Milk chocolate, then, God, you get a big rush. Dark chocolate's much better for you. If they're on from Perth, they have incontinence. Yeah, there's probably some people getting up in the middle of the night to take a pee, and they can't help themselves. They look in on their phone, and they see we're live, and maybe...
Right. Can't help it.
Yeah. Baton Rouge, yes, he saw that dry rub. We used a bit of dry rub on that. Gordon Smith says, we had Lindt business. Lindt, the big chocolate company. Is that a German, Swiss, Dutch? Where's Lindt? L-I-N-D-T, Julia?
I thought it was German, but I don't know.
I'll bet you Gordon Smith knows. Oh, we had Lindt bunnies, he said. L-I-N-D-T.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Lindt milk chocolate. My butt hurts. Well, sad note that the the Pope passed away, as I'm sure you all. Lent is Swiss, Fritz Mueller says. As everybody knows, it was a surprise. I was surprised, Julie, to see him out and about on Saturday. And he was maybe not out on Saturday, but he was out in the Pope Mobile. This shot here is from the Pope Mobile on Sunday when he didn't run the service, but he was present on the balcony for the service and then did a tour through the crowd on Sunday afternoon. That must have been pretty tough on him because on Monday morning, apparently he had a stroke and had heart failure and passed away.
I think I told you that I woke up in the middle of the night and heard that he had died. And when I woke up 4 hours later, there was nothing on the internet.
Well, I saw it when I woke up first thing. And, when I look at my news lying in bed at whatever time.
Right.
But he died at 7-something-30 CET, but that would have been, I'm not sure when they publicize it. Usually they wait a little bit before they publicize it. But he is lying in state now in an open casket. And he was, of course, Argentinian. Jorge Mario Bergoglio. There's a G there. The second G is in Spanish and in Italian, at least in Italian and mostly in Spanish, is silent. Bergoglio was his name before he became Pope Francis. And he lived from 1936 until this past Monday, of course, 2025. May he rest in peace. Okay, our show on Friday, we're on the up and up, Julia. For some reason, it's like during the pandemic when our viewership went way north.
Yep.
And it has gone way north again, and I'm not sure why, but maybe it's the thumbnails. They say these thumbnails have a lot to do with how much viewership. We don't really care, frankly, about viewership. We do it for the FOSI, the Friends of Sailing Illustrated, who are the regulars here. We do it to keep our own brains active and engaged. And because we love our sport, and it's a small way we can contribute to it. And I'm just amazed, though, that in the last handful of shows, as Clark Chapin will vouch, he looks at this stuff for us, we've had something like approaching 5,000 views soon after the show. I'm not talking about days or weeks, because you always get more residual views afterwards. But thank you to all of you for your support. We appreciate it, again, very, very much indeed. And clicking, liking, sharing, and sending us a few bucks each month helps a lot as we explore new things, including AI. We told you about Richard on Friday's show, Richard Gladwell's foray into AI graphics. He's trying to teach me how to make such images. I'll be really dangerous. Our graphics department, Julia, will be really dangerous if we start producing some things like this. Mm-hmm. But these are all AI, courtesy of Richard Gladwell. We showed you on the show on Friday. And then this one, of course, Sir Jim not looking very happy as Sir Jim Ratcliffe, of course, is pulled out of the cup. And then there's more news after that we'll cover in the cup segment. But that's AI graphics courtesy of Richard Gladwell. And we're trying to learn how to do that ourselves on ChatGPT and other services. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool stuff. This is a new one I didn't show you on Friday that Richard produced over the weekend after it was confirmed that Alinghi had, in fact, pulled out of the cup, and how he comes up with this in his own mind, because you have to instruct. Right. You have to instruct ChatGPT, and it's say, hey, give me an Alinghi sailboat on skis going down the hill with somebody that looks like, I guess, like Ernesto Bertarelli, but it looks more like Magnus the Magnificent in that shot than Ernesto. But nonetheless, cool stuff. And I saw this morning, Julia. Yes. I saw this morning an article on AI that says that when you say thank you to ChatGPT, or you say, I appreciate your thanks. It consumes some amount of water and electricity that's. Okay, it's not a huge amount, but the AI is so energy intensive that just to reply to you to say thank you when it processes it, when you say thank you to it and it comes back and says you're welcome, it takes some amount of water to cool the servers and some amount of electricity to do that. Wow. I mean, I always say thank you to Siri. Yeah. Siri and I have a nice conversation. Well, you do. You're such a nice person. Oh, I am. Andrew McIrvin says, yeah, J.D. Vance, the U.S. vice president, killed the Pope. He did. He was the last person to be with him, apparently, other than his own staff on Saturday. And the left here in the U.S. are all saying, oh, yeah, J.D. Vance stressed him. Oh, yeah, stressed him and killed him. And now Andrew McIrvin has picked that up.
I think his staff kept him alive because he expressed a wish to die on
Easter.
On Easter.
Yeah, well, he did. He died on Easter Monday, which, having lived in Europe for 20 years, Easter Monday is a big deal in Europe and in other Catholic countries in particular. But it's not a big deal here. Why is that?
I don't know. It's another paid holiday that nobody wanted.
Well, I tried to see some connection between the Pope and sailing, and I couldn't find it. Although he did, Julia, he did use... and whether he may have had somebody on his staff who was writing speeches for him, but he did often use, in fact, going back through COVID, we're all in the same boat. Mm-hmm. He used a lot of naval, maritime type, what's the word I want? Not just metaphors, but
language,
picturesque language from sailing, from sailing and boating and so on. So he did have an affinity for the sea, apparently.
Yes.
But speaking of this AI stuff, back on this article I was seeing this morning, the other thing that's been all over the news here in the States is that Gen Z, the latest graduates from college, are saying that their college degrees are a waste of time and money as AI infiltrates the workplace and can do things that they were trained in college. They took expensive courses in uni to learn. And I couldn't quite believe that it's going to replace that many jobs and come that fast. But, ask Mr. Doctor, speaking of Andrew McIrvin, there are going to be a lot of doctors that are going not to be doing differential diagnosis because AI can do it so quickly and so well. There can be a lot of lawyers who aren't producing documents because AI can produce and already does produce wills and trust deed documents and so on, purchase and sale agreements. You tell it what you want, you modify it a little bit. And
they don't have to be so carefully read.
It so carefully crafted, but of course the whole thing is get a lawyer because they know the local laws, but AI knows the local laws too.
Sure.
As well as. So I was starting to think about what's the impact going to be on our beloved sport. And, because AI could do a show like this, well, yeah, any crouton could do a show like this, Julia, right?
Yeah, you have to fill them full of all your knowledge.
No, but even that, all my historical knowledge, back at least to the internet, back to in 95 or so. Okay, maybe 80s, 70s, 60s, there isn't quite so much, but they can read books. AI can read books too from that era, and we'll have all that book knowledge. So I was watching this morning. A web, just when I'm preparing the show, and I've got too many screens here, so I do too much multitasking, and I'm watching a YouTube video as I'm looking for sailing YouTube videos of a channel I've been following. These guys, these two are photographers. They're professional photographers, and they have a very well-known, highly regarded photography YouTube channel. Their names are Tony and Chelsea Northrup. They happen to be sailors, not big sailors, not racing sailors, but they do some sailing. In fact, you'll see in this opening clip the Golden Gate Bridge and some sailboats in it, I think, coincidentally. But they've got something closing in on 2 million subscriptions, to their YouTube channel. They're very bright, very articulate, and I've been watching them for some time. And I'm just going to take the first 40 seconds of their lament today about what AI is doing to the photography business and the modeling business and the fashion business and how many jobs it's already killed. Watch this.
Sweeping the photography sector, we already have AI-generated headshots, AI editing, generative AI, food photos are being taken in AI, and now big fashion houses like H&M are creating AI twins of models so that they can have completely AI-generated models modeling their clothing and getting rid of entire photo shoots. That means no photographer, no location scouting, no makeup artist, no hairstylist. We're doing away with the fashion shoot. We're going to talk about that, how it impacts models, how it impacts photographers in the photography industry, how it actually works because we tried it.
Okay, so they go on for
Wow.
10,
Yeah.
15 minutes, and that's just the first, I guess, 40 seconds of that. But you start to think about it. And as she just said, as Chelsea said, I don't know these folks. I just have been following their channel. No makeup, no location check, no gaffers, no lighting, no photographers, because it's all AI and it's somebody sitting in front of a computer producing this stuff. So what's that going to do in our sport? Well, let's look at SailGP as an example. I think very quickly the jury is going to, the judges, the umpires, back in the television umpiring booth watching the computer, they're going to go away because the AI can do all that umpiring. They can see, the AI can see that there's an infringement, and maybe even better and quicker. And they can make the radio call to the team, so-and-so's penalized versus vis-a-vis, whatever the terminology is that they use. They can put it up on the television. The AI can put it up on the television screen. So there's just one small example, and I really haven't been thinking too much about it.
The word that comes to me is, where's the wisdom?
Well, but that's a pretty mechanical thing. It's looking at the relationship of the boats, knowing the rules, applying the rules, deciding who broke the rules, if any, and then communicating the rule violation and the penalty, if any. So, I can see that as just one quick example. I'm sure that there will be lots of comments on this. And I think it's something we should think about.
Yes.
Mark Holland is saying, skip college and just become a plumber or sailmaker. But AI is going to make sails too. I mean, they're already making sails in Minden, Nevada for North to some degree. I don't know who else. What else? AI will put naval architecture out of business, Fritz Mueller suggests. Clay Embley, maybe artificial intelligence is better than the lack of intelligence.
Yes.
Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, remember Max Headroom, Alan Long. There's a blast from the past. Andrew McUrban is saying, at least AI can't do surgery, but it will change everything for thinking doctors, quote unquote. Yes. But they will ultimately be doing surgery too. They already have robotic,
they do.
right? They've already got robotic surgery, right, Julia?
Right.
So there will be some of that too, Andrew, if there's not already. How much of it's AI or just how much of it's just robots? But again, the robots are watching via cameras. We use the Vaqueros system at the J24 Midwinters. That's the starting, Bill Wingrove is saying about that automated start line system. It can run the whole race, start to finish, no general recalls due to it knowing your position at all times. Yeah. Will it replace the race committee? I have a sense that it won't replace race committees as quickly as it will replace the online umpiring, but maybe not. How about commentators? Will it replace commentators sitting in a sound booth somewhere and in London, because it can look at the television picture, it can immediately identify the yachts and a commentator voice. You hear all this AI that's basically so far just reading text.
Yeah.
But reading text, I mean, it's gone from, you remember how bad it was in the 90s when you had to train a microphone and the computer. It took forever. You had to talk for an hour into a mic, and then it was still crotonic.
Yep.
But now you hear, in fact, you hear the same voice that sounds like this guy, the American actor called Ice-T. He's on, it sounds like every other voiceover I hear now is him. And of course it's AI. Kodak is rolling in its grave. Gordon Smith says, I'm researching AI in the professions right now with a professor from Canada and a professor from Denmark. Very interesting opportunity to reveal what is a professional. Interesting point, Gordon. Ed Worley asserts that AI is a false path. AI is a tool and cannot give abstract thought and cannot discern the truth or reality from the BS that roams the internet. Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe not. Andrew Pindar, video killed the radio star. Not really. Radio's back pretty good, Andrew. It's still there because not everybody, even this show, a lot of people listen to it rather than watch it. Okay, well, Jody Shields had a good suggestion, Julia, about Fozy apropos these shows, maybe we should spend some more time on introducing FOSI, having them introduce themselves and talk about what they are up to. I think that's a good idea.
It is.
If anyone has personal contacts in New York for finance or law, HQ function, partner, board, etc., I would like to come into contact with you then. Gordon Smith's asking that. Yarvahe, Nuance, and AI are distant cousins for a while yet. Yes, indeed. But I am astonished, Julia, Yar, I'm astonished how quickly it has come. You know, we just started, seems like we started talking about this a year ago.
Or 6 months ago, almost.
Yeah, maybe. But
yeah.
And now all of a sudden, we've already seen one stock go, NVIDIA stock go way up and then semi-crash, and it's going to come back again, I'm sure, in a big way. And
maybe not.
It will.
Something else is replacing it.
Andrew Pindar, yet the Mac and PC democratized the publishing process, giving voice to those who otherwise would not have been. Well, look at podcasts and webcasts like this. I mean,
our show would be totally impossible without.
Exactly. Well, not AI, but without the internet.
Without the internet.
This is an internet show. Lots and lots of comments. David James asking, do you think AI could design Dorade or the Cal 40? Yeah, sure. They could go back and look, and they could analyze the rules very quickly. Could they design it today? Yes. Could they design it in the days of Olin Stevens? No, because they didn't have Olin Stevens to draw from and his experience and his boats and so on. So that's.
I want to try an AI race between two boats, one of which we know and one of which we don't know.
An AI race. Well, we've got those now. You're doing these races around the world, and you can race them online, virtual racing, and that's AI driven in part.
Right.
Anyway, that's the website, Tony, and if you want to check in on them, if you're a photographer particularly, Tony and Chelsea Northrup, USA. And I do think on this show we will spend some time, as you heard Chelsea articulate, I think we'll spend some time thinking about what is AI going, how is it going to impact our sport? How is it going to impact all of us as sailors, as racing sailors? And Alistair Murray's, I think AI can probably even crack a good joke.
Probably can.
Gordon Smith saying AI has evolved quickly because so much of it is stored digitally, and AI is fundamentally algorithms working on data. And Larry Kennedy, who's already been replaced as a bimbo, as the Brotherhood of International Markboat Operators, they've already been replaced by these autonomous marks. But remember, those marks are still being run by somebody with a joystick.
Yeah.
But they can say, go to this lat lawn, and with the satellite and with the GPS, the mark then goes to that lat lawn without more.
Yes, and stays there.
And stays there. And exactly. Good point. And stays there. Okay. David James says, it's not clear to me that AI has a sense of beauty. Well, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. And, you look at some of the architecture from the 50s and 60s and wonder what that was all about. Adam Ostenfeld. There is a blast from the past, one of the best sailors, one of the coolest guys that I have done the cup with over the now many years. Adam was he was with Dennis, and he was after that with America 2. Sailing is a bit more complicated, but sailing with robots has been going on for a while. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Adam Ostenfeld, last I knew, was living in Spain. Where are you living, Adam? Nice to see you on. Carrying on here, shall we? Show number 827 for today, Tuesday, the 22nd of April. We're going to do a quick FOSI focus. As I said to Julia, this is probably the longest A block we've ever done. A couple of FOSI in the news we want to focus on here. Is you recognize that image? I don't think I've ever shown that on this show, Julia, but it has a lot of FOSI in it, a number of FOSI anyway.
No, I don't recognize.
That is the 1992 Olympic yacht racing jury in Barcelona.
Oh.
You see in the upper left corner, there's a friend of yours who has stayed here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. You know who that is? Gunther Persil.
Oh, yeah.
He stayed here. He was your big buddy. He and his then new squeeze. He was on the jury with us over at St. Francis on something. It may have even been a match racing regatta for
Big Boat Series.
Was it? No, I was here for a match because I've never been on the Big Boat Series jury. And that was a match racing event that he was here for, at least, and probably others. Okay, let's see who else. Can you pick out Brian Willis there? I just circled him. Mm-hmm. Brian has been chairman of any number of America's Cup juries. He's on the America's Cup panel, or he was last time, the arbitration panel. And he's a cool guy, and he's been on this show a couple of times, in fact, with Hamish Ross, among others. Then down in the lower right corner, you know who that is? Joran Peterson, former president of ISAF, and really was key in the invention of umpiring. He was a yacht racing judge, and then a hockey referee. And
couldn't be all bad.
And he, from Sweden, of course, and a longtime dear friend, and he and I put our heads together on this umpiring stuff. We said if we can referee a hockey game, we ought to be able to umpire a yacht race. Turns out that arguably umpiring a yacht race is more difficult than refereeing a hockey game because of the
wind.
Because the amount of water you got to cover.
Right.
And then finally in this picture is this gentleman is Russell Green, who's been on this show a couple times. He's the legal advisor for Emirates Team New Zealand. He is, I'm sure, the architect of this putrid draft protocol. I wish he were here, because I'd give him a piece of my mind. I wrote to him this morning, and I invited him onto the show to explain his draft protocol, because I'm sure he's Grant Dalton's architect for that. Mm-hmm. As I said, he's a dear friend, longtime friend, and his wife as well. There is the chief, the dinosaur on the left, as I'm now being called, the T-Rex, Tom, the dinosaur, along with Russell Green at a New York Yacht Club event, Harbor Court event, for AC36. It was a presentation for by Prada at Harbor Court. Russell Green, and today is his birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
So we want to wish Russell a very happy 72nd or 73rd birthday. I'm not sure which, Russell, on the right. That's our first Fozzie Focus. The other one is apropos the esteemed Congressional Cup, which he mentioned, which we mentioned at the top of the show, begins next week with the Ficker Cup this weekend, the 25th through the 27th. It's the qualifying regatta, and there are, 8-9 teams vying to qualify for 2 places into next week's Congressional Cup. And Fozzie on this show, who is not in either of those events this year, sadly, I've just learned this morning, but we've been talking about him a lot because he was doing very well in the Sydney Harbor 18 circuit. And was second, finally, ultimately.
He's not in either?
Not in the Congressional Cup this year, but he was, and is one of the more famous modern skippers in the Congressional Cup, because this is Harry Price, knocked one of the lights off the end of the Belmont Pier, the Belmont Memorial Veterans Memorial Pier, and here is a video about that occasion some years, I think 2020. Enjoy. The name of which is Price Point.
Here I am with Pricey, the very proud father of Harry Price.
Another Fozzie.
Now, Pricey, it appears that you've had a bit of a light bulb moment. You're going to sign the light bulb.
Well, it's only fair that Price Point gets a moniker and a little bit of, a little bit of scribble on it to make sure that it lives for at least another year.
Are you proud of your son?
I'm proud of my son, but he's different.
Well, look, if he doesn't take out the crimson blouser, at least he took out a lamppost.
Yes. I'm actually looking for the lamppost to take it home and put it in the front yard.
Well, I hope you find it. Got a wetsuit and some scuba diving gear?
I believe it floated to shore, so I've got to check with the shore crew.
Well, we're going to watch you do the autograph on the lamppost now.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll get on to it.
I tell you what, I didn't actually see it. I was trying to look for my name tag to figure out which dock we were in, and then nearly missed it as well. But and then everyone pointed it out.
The Congressional Cup, we love our skippers, and we also like to have a good time with them, and we always appreciate a little good ribbing and some hospitality between us, so.
Thank you.
Price Point from, I think that was 2020, the Congressional Cup. And it's right there at the end of the pier we were telling you about here a second ago. But Harry Price, who's a Fozy, as is his Olympic medalist sister, Olivia, and his mom and dad, Christian, and, of course, Pricey, a.k.a. David.
Yeah.
And speaking of that pier, we go to Long Beach now for the update on the Olympic venue, and that is the pier off of which the Congressional Cup is run, the Veterans Memorial Pier. It's going to get a bit of an update for the Olympics, and I'm still convinced that the Olympics are going to be held there in Long Beach, not in San Pedro. This is a letter I told you about on Friday, but I'm going to reprise it here. Long Beach was chosen over San Pedro as the Olympic sailing venue for the LA Games after an exhaustive review from the head coach of U.S. Sailing, then executive director of U.S. Sailing, representatives of the U.S. Sailing Board, representatives of World Sailing, including Gary Jobson, who was then a vice president, the head of LA's 28 venues, Doug Arnault, and his chief venue architect, and finally representatives of the IOC. All were toured through both venues equally. They unanimously chose Long Beach. This was some time ago.
Yes.
Now a newly installed, we should say, Los Angeles County Supervisor representing San Pedro is challenging the previous decision. I'm writing to you, hoping you might contact Mr. Graham, David Graham, the CEO at World Sailing, and express support for Long Beach. Thank you. Our super Fozy John Sangmeister wrote that last Thursday, the 17th of April. Long Beach is correct. That's what the venue should be. I'm pretty sure what the venue is going to be. The city council people who are pushing San Pedro, which is a port, which would have to be another what they call green space, meaning they'd have to secure it. They'd have to put all the usual provisions in where you have an Olympic venue for security reasons. Plus, they'd have to partially shut down the port, the traffic going in and out of there, yada, yada, yada. It's ridiculous to even consider moving the venue from Long Beach, where it has now been set for some time, to San Pedro, just because the political whims of some people who want some money into their venue. San Pedro, Julia, is croutonic.
Yeah, it is. Didn't I just see, though, that the guy from LA just reintroduced that?
He did. He's still pushing it at the city council level.
Yeah.
It isn't going to work, and it's particularly not going to work if you all ping the World Sailing CEO, David.Graham. Several of you asked for this email address after Friday's show. David.Graham, Graham, Graham, @sailing.org. David.Graham@sailing.org. Send him a letter. Joe Holtzman, who lived in SoCal, and worked in those two towns for a long time. Long Beach is the place for it. No other choice, yada, 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 is ridiculous. Joe Holtzman, thank you for that. He's now retired in Colorado, lifelong sailor. Great guy, good friend. If it's in San Pedro, is John Sangmeister going to open a joint in the joint? No, I don't think it has much impact at all. In fact, arguably, a business like John's gets hurt by having the Olympics there, because what happens, of course, is the regular tourists, the regular local folk, local clientele go out of town, and they say, we're not going down there. It's going to be crushed by the Olympics.
Right.
Now, those of us that are there for the Olympics, we might go over to John's restaurant, but he is just doing it, I'm sure, out of the goodness of his heart, knowing which is the better venue from his longtime experience in SoCal, just like Joe Holtzman,
and he was involved with the last Olympics.
Well, not really. He was too young. 84?
Yeah.
Not really.
I wasn't too young.
Well, you weren't, and I was the jury secretary and the technical delegate, because DBA executive director of U.S. Sailing. But I was young, 84.
Oh, you still are.
31.
Still are relative babe.
It's Crutonic. Write to David Graham. Please tell him so. But one hears, Julia.
Yes.
The LA Yacht Club is getting involved in the game. This is the current board of directors of the Los Angeles Yacht Club, which is situated there in San Pedro.
Yes.
And that is their board of directors. And here is their Commodore and her name, whom I don't know her, Marjorie Irvin. And I suggest we all write her. I will yet today, after the show is over, at commodore@layc.org, because they are quietly behind the scenes pushing for San Pedro, or so one hears. And LA Yacht Club, you ought to stand down. You ought to support Long Beach. You ought to help with the race committee. It's not correct. Just because you want it. They want it in their front yard.
Yeah, but their facilities aren't up to it.
The facilities are not up to it. You're absolutely right, Julia. Why don't you write her? Why don't you call her up?
I will.
Give her a piece of your mind. I'm serious.
I will.
I don't know her. I'm sure she has a heart of gold, but the LA Yacht Club, you ought to stand down. You ought to get behind Long Beach, because that is far and away the better venue.
They should sponsor a dinner or something for the dignitaries so they can get...
Well, in the 84 games, LA Yacht Club, Long Beach Yacht Club, Alamitos Bay Yacht Club, Mission Bay Yacht Club, and I think California Yacht Club all put race committees up from their clubs, and it worked great. It was a great system.
Yeah.
So they had their own kind, and there was a little competition between the race committees. Who could do a better job? Who got higher marks from World Sailing or then IYRU?
Right.
And each of them put up a race committee of their people and their boats.
That's a good idea.
And it was a great idea. Worked very, very well indeed. And that's what they ought to do. Write to LA Yacht Club. Write to this lady, LA Yacht Club Commodore Marjorie Irvin, Commodore, at layc.org. And if you disagree with me, tell her. Tell her, we carry on. You ought to,
keep LA prime.
Well, if you disagree with us, write to her and say, hey, Eamon's a crouton. He's trying to convince us to keep the event in Long Beach. Don't let it happen. Okay, enough of that, Julia, don't you think?
Point made.
Huh?
Point made.
Yeah, but you know me and grinding the axe. So.
All right.
You know me. Julia, what are we celebrating today?
Earth Day.
Correct. Earth Day. Well done. April 22nd. As the world's largest environmental movement and the most widely celebrated secular occasion. Think about that. I didn't think about that. According to all these websites, that's what they say. But over 1 billion people and more than 75,000 partners involved each year across almost 200 countries, Earth Day has gone from strength to strength over the course of its fairly short history.
Yeah.
And here, Julia, is the video. I should probably read this, but this came up after a massive oil spill in Santa Barbara near your hometown, Julia, back in the 60s.
Right.
A U.S. Congresswoman, he's now passed away, Gaylord Nelson from Wisconsin, created Earth Day. He was a boater, too, by the way. Nelson chose April 22nd because it falls between spring break for unis, colleges here, and final exams. On April 22nd, 1970, the first Earth Day, 20 million Americans demonstrated for a healthy, sustainable environment. So they knew they were onto something. It led to the creation of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the passage of the Endangered Species Act. Now more than 192 countries, this video asserts, observe Earth Day, making it the largest secular observance in the world. Here is the gentleman, the late Senator Gaylord Nelson from Wisconsin, who lived from 1916 to 2005. You can see he's in some kind of a boat there, a rowboat, a small power boat, fishing boat. And he was from that state of Wisconsin. And this is... here's Michigan, where I'm from. This is the Upper Peninsula, the UP. The marks are not too clearly denoted here. This is Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin, and he apparently was a big fan up here in Lake Superior, what's called the Apostle. We go to that. What's called the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. And he used to sail in boat up there at some islands there in the upper left corner of Wisconsin. And he got that turned into the U.S. National Lake a park, which is a U.S. National Lakeshore Park, including those 21 islands, and a big shoreline, and it's right at the very northern tip of Wisconsin on the shore of what is the largest and coldest Great Lake, Lake Superior. It is known for its collection of historic lighthouses, sandstone sea caves, a few old-growth remnant forests, and natural animal habitats. It is featured in the America the Beautiful Quarter Series, yada, yada. But it is suffice to say, he was a boater and apparently a bit of a sailor. A lot of people in Wisconsin are sailors because of all the inland lakes, likewise Minnesota, likewise Michigan. And bravo Zulu to him, because this is a significant holiday in the world. And even Rolex put out a video today, Julia, to celebrate it. And here's that video.
There's a sense of urgency that we all must do something.
We shouldn't feel defeated. We can do it. Perpetual planet means protecting nature as if our lives depend on it.
We have to keep hope alive.
How can we use our skills to solve these global problems?
I love for my research to have an impact in the life of people.
It takes a collective effort from all of us to inspire, to educate.
Putting all the knowledge together.
Más gente involucrada, más gente.
We are not going to stop until we get the job done.
It was just the beginning. Fantastic.
Nice Rolex video, whether they are virtue signaling, but I'm sure they mean it. I'm sure they're putting some money behind it. Blake Middleton is saying that Wayzata Yacht Club up in Minnesota has an entire group called the Apostle Island Station, and they regatta, they cruise, they hang out there all summer. John McNeil, hello, Commodore McNeil. France made the same error last round by selecting Marseille over Hyères. Are we doing it again? Good point, Commodore McNeil. Yes, the Olympics should be in Long Beach, not in San Pedro, although there's plenty of wind in San Pedro too. It's just it's an armpit of Southern California. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. It's a port. It's industrial. It's
an
commercial.
industrial port, yeah.
Right, Julia?
Right.
I mean, you lived down there in L.A. for quite some number of years at Cal Arts, and what were you doing down there besides chasing cute young men at Disney?
Creating the California Institute of the Arts.
Okay, Cal Arts. I love to tease, Julia, as you can tell. Thanks, Rolex, for that, and that's what we're celebrating today, Julia Warren. Hence your green dress, scarf, and my green shirt, and Earth Day 2025. We're also celebrating all of you who support us here at Sailing Illustrated, whether you're a patron via Patreon or you just come on and watch the show. And those of you who appear on the show as guests and help send ideas, as many of you do for each show.
Wonderful.
Which is essential. Yeah. Indeed, wonderful and essential. If you want to join us, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, and thank you very much indeed for your support, continuing and more. John Emmett, the Coaching Corner, is our regular segment here at the start of the B block, as it is again today, with our super Fozy John Emmett, checking in again from merry old England.
Hi Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. So today's another quite late recording for Tom because, well, I never quite know what's going to happen at the moment. Every day I wake up, look at my phone, and yeah, there's lots of news going on both in and outside the world of sailing. And it feels like a time of great uncertainty. So just like choosing a start line on an oscillating breeze where maybe I make my decision about the favoured end quite late, I've been trying to give myself the room for opportunity to take the latest news and give it a little bit of a chat. But I think we probably have a pretty good theme for the Coach's Corner, and that's uncertainty. So comments here, very welcome. I think in a time of uncertainty, we all try and grab the controllables, the things that we can control. And when working with a team or going to regatta, we want certainty. And that's something that at least psychologically made the pandemic very hard. So for I don't know whether to call it Tokyo 2020 or 2021, you know, we were going to venues to train that we knew we could guarantee to get that time on the water. So I think that was a really important thing in times of uncertainty. It makes you realise what you can rely on. And I guess in some ways there's quite a lot of bad news at the moment with teams dropping out, the problem with the Sail GP hulls. I mean, I think the masts have at least 3 sections, and I don't know how it works in terms of putting the boat itself together. So if there's a problem in one section, maybe there's 6 sections per boat, 12 boats. Crikey, there's an awful lot of work to be done to get things sorted. But safety first, look after the sailors, look after the assets, and I'm sure we'll be back to normality. With the America's Cup, I really don't know what's going on. I've got this date of the 20th of June going on in my head. But in terms of certainty, I wait to see stuff, you know, in black and white with the T's crossed, the I's dotted, and the ink dried, because it feels that anything can change at any time. And I go back to one of the initial points in terms of sort of doing business with people was, you know, joining teams and so on. You need that reliable people who you know will stick to their agreement, and that's why I think these proven regattas like Palma Hyères are so good, because of course nobody can control the weather, but you know it's likely to be a very, very good regatta, a good place to train, good people to race against, and you know the circuit for that reason has been European based, or the majority for many years. So I think that trend, even if you come from as far away as New Zealand or Australia, you know, you need to join that circuit to get the best. And it was really good to see Zoe win Palma. Be very interested to see the results from Hyères. I don't really check the results that much in the first couple of days because we're in qualifying series rather than gold, silver, etc. Although of course I do check the results just in case there's a scoring mistake, but I want at that stage my athlete to be very focused on their results, their performance, and what they can control. And at the same time I'm getting ready for the sailing season myself. I think the first Sunday season series, God, that's a mouthful, at Castle Cove starts this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I think probably the most fun for me is seeing the young members join the sailing club and just the enthusiasm they bring. And I'll try and get a video out sort of May, June, just showing all the activities we do. And that's why I said comments very welcome, because I'm very interested to see what people do at their club to drive participation, because that's good for elite, because the more people participating, the higher the person at the top of the triangle is likely to get, but also just for the future of the sailing clubs. You know, it's a nice problem to have when you haven't got enough boat part space. And you know, I see so many clubs closing. Bow Beach now I think is quite an active club in the southeast of the UK, because for lack of a better word, it's taken the refugees from Buell Valley and now Weirwood. But we need to try and protect our sailing facilities. So if you haven't done so already, please do share. Really keen to get this fantastic show out to a wider audience, and probably especially just the typical demographic to, you know, get more female viewers and more younger viewers and more parasailers viewing, because that's the whole inclusivity which is so important. It's not about giving minority groups preferential treatment, it's just about giving them the same opportunities as the majority have, and that's such an important thing in sport and in life. So on that note, sail fast, sail safe, and keep having lots and lots of fun. See you on the show.
Keep having lots and lots of fun. Julia, that's a good sentiment.
It is.
We talk about that. Why can't we get more social activities featured in various aspects of our sport? Because we know how important it is.
It is.
That's why people they join. They want to get together with their friends around something they like to do, which is sailing.
Right.
And John Emmett, once again, hit the nail on the head. John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. And John also likes to remind us, as he did when he put that panel together in show 805, back in January to get parasailing reinstated for Brisbane 2032. And that's going to be as a demonstration event, we hope. We assume you Aussies are going to push that through. Please do.
Yes.
Because we want that to happen, don't we, Julia?
We do.
And we appreciate John Emmett's regular reportage, as always. Let's get on to our main theme today. Oh, by the way, I wanted to go back here just a sec. There is a new name I've not seen before in the chat. Keith Jamex, Jamex. Hey, hi from New Zealand. Hello, Keith. Welcome.
Yes.
To the show, and joining our FOSI, the Friends of Sailing Illustrated, including Jody Shields, who do all those Earth-saving EV vehicles, get their power from coal-fired power stations in China, Julia.
Of course.
That the little back and forth there between Jody in Australia and John Emmett, who's in England, but married to a Chinese wife. Interesting. Okay, let's do our main thing, which is, of course, the Olympic week in France in Hyères. And it's a big event following on from what they did down the first such Grand Slam event of the new Olympic season, which took place down in Spain, in Palma de Mallorca, the Princesa Sofia Trofeo, which we featured some weeks back. And now this is day 2. I haven't seen results from day 2, but even the U.S. seems to have gotten going here in the early part of this regatta. Here is an introductory video from Hyères.
Hi, I'm Gray Morris out of Sydney, Australia, and I'm an IQ foiler. In my childhood, I was surrounded by 2 parents who were really into sport, and they knew I had a love for it as well. So I started doing taking as many opportunities in sport as possible with rugby and windsurfing, and throughout the years I led more to the windsurfing side, which took me to a high performance sport and competitive series, and now I'm absolutely loving it. I got the opportunity to go to Olympics where I did quite well and I was quite happy with, but it just opened my eyes to more potential things like the 2028 Olympics and potentially the 2032 Olympics, and what I want to succeed in those. Leading up for the next 3 years to 2028, the goal is obviously a gold medal, but there's a lot of stepping stones to achieve in between that.
I had a bit of a tough moment after the games because I broke my ankle. So now it's my comeback, so I'm really excited, and I can't wait to see how I can go on the water. I think mentally it was really great to have this break because, like, you know, for the games you're full send for I don't know how many months, years. So yeah, I could just like reconnect with my family, take some time for me, and I had like this motivation again to go and train. I started kiting with my family, with my father and my brother, and I think I directly connected with this sport. I love the speed, I love all the sensation we can have on the water. I was doing great on competitions, and I was like, why not like trying to push it more and more? And then yeah, it just happened that I ended up doing the games, and it was awesome. And yeah, now it's just like, I don't know, maybe the goal of my life is just to reach the top, and so to reach this gold medal that I couldn't have in Paris.
Okay, Julia, nice video, and that was from day 1, I believe. More of a kind of a introductory, I should say, not preparatory, introductory video from the French Sailing Federation, the FFV. And now they sent this video out today. This is B-roll, a lot of wind noise behind it, and I don't believe there's any voiceover, but you get a feeling for fabulous conditions that they've had there. I mean, fabulous. The first 2 days, and their their press releases are crowing about the fabulous conditions, including Earth Day. They're talking about Earth Day, but there are the IQ foils. And not every class is racing every day, but the IQ foils obviously race today. The Ilkas, you'll see in a moment here, were racing. Gray Morris, you saw the superb Australian windsurfer featured there in that previous video. in that class.
It's a great name, too.
Gray Morris.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. President Emeritus Alistair Murray is very fond of him, just thinks the world of him. Says he's a great kid. Well, he's a kid, a great guy. Look at him pump. That is hard work in the IQ foils.
They're amazingly close together.
There are the kites. There's a Singaporean who's been very, well, since Marseille, but leading up to and including Marseille, Mr. Motter. What's his first name?
Don't know.
Doing well. And look at how big they are. Look at their butts. Look at their hips. Yeah. Because they realize now they got to put a lot of weight on to counteract the kite.
Yeah, Rick Bannerow was talking about somebody and he says he looks like a rugby prop.
Well, yeah, exactly. A prop. This event's been going on for a long time. What is this, the 56th, did they say? Hyères Week. I was once on the jury for Hyères Week. Not sure why. Long time ago.
I didn't see you.
Well, you didn't, but a fabulous spot, Julia.
Yes, it is.
Fabulous spot to sail. And I'll say it now. We'll get out of it. I'll do my last slide here. But just before we leave this, I wanted to say that after day one, which was yesterday, day two now, what time is it over there? You all plus now, is it 22:01 over there now on the continent? Yeah, 23:01 on the continent. So it's the end of their Tuesday, and it's late in the day. After day one, the Americans were leading in the 49er class. They were second in the ILCA 6 class. They were third in the FX, 49er FX class, and sixth in the men's kite. We'll cover more of this on Friday.
Yeah.
We'll see how they let it settle in. But what do you think of that, Julia?
That's a great improvement.
Yeah, so much better than how we did. And it was interesting, too, Julia, in the results, it lists the name of the boat or the sponsor. And one of these teams that I know, I looked through all the standings, and some of the U.S. teams are down further down this. But
yeah,
I believe all four of these top teams list as their sponsor supporter Windmark, which is Doug DeVos, and or America One. Not a single one in this group, I don't believe, said anything about U.S. sailing. But there were several other boats in other down the leaderboard that called their supporter U.S. Sailing. So the U.S. Sailing's got to figure this out. They got to meld. They got to amalgamate was the word I was looking for. Our Olympic effort and get Kayard and Doug DeVos and that whole crowd, Dawn Riley's group, everybody pulling on the same oar or rowing in the same direction, and get our Olympic program fired up, because clearly we have some kids who are coming along. Charlotte Rose, for example, she's the one from Emory who is in second place in the ILCA 6. John Emmett crows about her every time we, so he knows about her. A lot of other people do. So as John Emmett is saying, there's a lot of uncertainty in the sport in the moment with all this tariffs and economy stuff going on, but it's all going to sort out. It always does.
Yes.
And it's going to come good, including, I think, the Olympics, including Sail GP. I think it's going from strength to strength. The America's Cup, I'm not so sure about, but we'll talk about that in a second. And Clark Chapin agreeing, I think, with my little chat there about everyone in U.S. sailing getting together and pulling in the same direction, because we have some real potential here, maybe for the first time in quite some quadrennium.
Yes.
Quadrennia. Is that the plural?
Yes.
Quadrennia? People say I should not make fun of you going to Stanford, but I'm very proud of you going to Stanford, being bright, and having been vice president of your class.
No. Student body.
Oh, the student. Oh, I teased you of the student body. Vice president of the student body.
Oh, yes.
In your sophomore year?
No, my senior.
Oh,
yes.
Your senior. I'm teasing you some more. Julia, what happened on this day in history? The 22nd of April, 1969.
69.
You probably won't get this. I wouldn't have gotten this had I not looked on the websites, but the Brits will all get this. They know this date because here is your first clue, and they will know who this is and what he achieved.
Going around the world?
Yes. Well done. Single-handed.
Single-handed, right?
Non-stop. The first to achieve it. And he was a Brit.
Mm-hmm.
And Blake Middleton, an American, comes up with it. This day in history, Sir Robin Knox-Johnston.
Oh, yes.
Wins the Sunday Times Golden Globe race and completes the first solo nonstop circumnavigation of the world.
Congratulations, Blake.
Fritz Mueller knew it. Clark Chapin knew it. Yar Vahe knew it. And Sir Gordon Smith and on down through Ted Ryman. And, of course, Andrew McIrvin down through the chat. That, of course, is Sir RKJ, born in 1939, still alive and with us and very much with us.
That's a good year.
It was a good year, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
And Sir Robin was the first person, as we said, to sail single-handed and nonstop around the world, and doing it between the 14th of June, 1968, and today, the 22nd of April. Way back in 1969, there was his by now familiar course going west to east around the Capes, the four Capes, including Cape Lewin, which I keep, having been to Cape Lewin, I keep talking about Cape Lewin probably too much.
Yeah.
Alex Hayworth is saying that on this date, Janet Grosvenor joined the RORC, which is way important. Janet Grosvenor is a cool person, cool babe. And she is now a senior serious official. She was the office secretary back in the day in the Royal Ocean Racing Club. Mm-hmm. And now she's the admiral, I think. Yeah, she's senior serious. And more importantly, she had a guitar for us that she kept at the Royal Ocean Racing Club. So during IYRU week, we could go over there. I could play the guitar, and we'd have these massive sing-alongs with the Kings up there and on the honor bar. And it was Admiral. Andrew McIrvin says she's now the admiral. I didn't know she joined the RORC on this date in, 69? But back to Sir Robin. Here is a cool video about his enormous achievement.
And the cannon has gone. The cannon has gone. The hooters, the horns, the salute. Day 312, about 25 past 3 on April the 22nd. And Robin Knox-Johnston and Sue Haley have sailed non-stop around the world.
So Robin Knox-Johnston is probably the most determined, most stubborn, most interesting person I've ever met in my entire life.
To me, Sir Robin Knox-Johnston is an iconic figure and one of the greatest sailors to have ever set foot in a boat.
The thing that made Robin stand out so much at the time was that he wasn't well known, he wasn't famous, he was an ordinary chap who'd built his own boat and done something that nobody on earth had ever done before through sheer guts and drive and determination.
Sir Robin is a legend. He encompasses everything that has built our sport to what it is today. And I think people probably underestimate or don't even realise just how involved he's been in so many aspects of our sport. And when you start to look at it, you're thinking, how can one person do that?
He's just at one with the oceans. He's a man of the sea.
Well, he's a brilliant guy. He is warm, he's focused, he knows what he wants to do, and he's actually enabled so many other people to actually do a lot of things.
The fact that I managed to achieve my objective was good, but especially as I didn't think actually I'd be the first. I thought someone else with a faster boat would beat me, but winning the Golden Globe changed my life completely.
And as Blake Middleton said, the Times of London put up a trophy saying, who can do this? Mm-hmm. Because, Francis Chichester had put had gotten himself around the globe single-handed, but he stopped.
Mhm.
Nobody had done it nonstop. So they put that up as a trophy, offered this Golden Globe as a trophy, and Robin entered and a few others. I can call him Robin. I know him not as well as the Brits, most of the Brits on
Sir
here.
Robin is a really
Sir
nice-
Robin, but, you know, I call Russell, not Sir Russell, you know, but Sir Robin
Yeah.
entered. And some others entered, and then they were going to say, well, instead of everybody starting at the same time because boats are different speed and different conditions, they let them start at different times. And I believe in that first go, tell me if I'm wrong in the chat, everybody, but I believe he was the first one to actually do it complete among that group that did try it in 1960, starting in 68. So Bravo Zulu, he's still with us. He's sponsored and founded a few other things in our beloved sport and still does. And it is, as Blake Middleton is saying, he is a true icon of the sport. How long did that voyage take? Well, it took 300 some odd days, right? Yarvahi is saying that, in fact, they put out the Royal Navy put out a boat on the 50th anniversary. Yeah, there's totally epic. The RN, the Royal Navy, put out a ship for the 50th anniversary of the finish, too. Clark Chapin saying, yeah, nice he finished in daylight, made for better videos and photos. Yeah, he was the only one to finish, Bill Wingrove. I thought that's what I read. Thank you, Bill. Alistair Murray, very fond memories of him participating in the International Sailing Summits. Yeah, I remember that too, Alistair. It was terrific summits that Alistair used to run, he and Ron Stan. And great stuff. I went on his H2O show when I published my first book. Oh, good, John Emmett. Sir Robin is now Julia.
86.
86, Blake Middleton. And a nice fellow, top fellow, Phil Yeomans, confirming. Okay. And he is, as I said, still with us, age 86, born in that great year, Julia.
Yes.
Huh? Vintage year.
Yes.
That would make you 86 as well.
Indeed.
Nobody can believe it. That you're still putting up with me after 10 years.
Well, it takes a lot.
Let alone at the advanced stage when most people have lost their patience with anything croutonic. Especially a dinosaur like me. I'm not quite as dinosaur.
Oh, you're a baby.
Right.
Oh,
and he's going strong, Yarvahe saying about him. Yes, indeed. Sir Robin Knox Johnson, this day in history.
I knew the name before I knew about him. Because it's such a nice name. Sir Robin.
Sir Robin. Julia, do you know what else happened on this day in history?
Hard to say. We got a visit from the Gstaad Yacht Club.
That was 2018. I think you and John McNeil were hosting a International Council of Yacht Clubs, ICOYC, International Council of Yacht Clubs World Conference or something here at St. Francis Yacht Club. Were you not?
Yep.
You were helping him with that?
Yep.
He was president or president emeritus. He's on the chat, or was earlier. And part of that was, I think, was when the Gstaad Yacht Club became a member of the ICOYC. And that's a photo from here in the America's Cup Lounge at the BSYC, at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Julia with Gstaad Yacht Club Vice Commodore Manrico Ischia. He is now the Commodore, and the GM, Cindy Schoenrich, who is still our GM.
Yeah.
I say our because I'm a proud member of that club, as you know, Julia.
Yes.
A lifetime member, having been one of the 10 founding members at the Gstaad Yacht Club. That's 2018, pre-pandemic. That's 7 years ago, Julia. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. What's also hard to believe is what's continuing to go on in the America's Cup. This is your America's Cup 38 Cup date, AC 38 Cup date. We told you the other day that Ernesto Bertarelli and his Alinghi team have pulled out of the Cup. And before, that was on Friday, we were telling you on Tuesday, and before that we were hearing rumors that he was on his way out. And then I started to get information from within the team.
One hears.
It was more than a one hears. I never would bet my life, but you know that one I told you it was a one hears on which I would bet the ranch.
Right.
But not that it matters. And what is important though is that he has pulled out, and of course first it was Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos pulled out, and now Alinghi have pulled out. And this was the statement issued either late Friday or early Saturday. I think I woke up to it on Saturday and put it on my Facebook page as a quote unquote. Despite all our efforts, we, Alinghi Red Bull Racing, have not been able to find agreement with the defender of the America's Cup for the future of the event. We would like to have seen more accountability, greater transparency, and new opportunities to perform not only individually, but as a group. That way we might, all of us together, could have delivered a commercially viable event capable of attracting global TV coverage, spectators, and sponsors, unquote. The team told Sail World in a written statement. Well, they told all of us. This I grabbed from Richard Gladwell in Sail World. Quote, so it is with great disappointment that we have begun an orderly wind down of the Alinghi Red Bull Racing team. Now, there's a lot to be unpacked there. One is I can tell you that Ernesto, first of all, to his everlasting credit, when they ran the 2007 Cup, of which our Superfozy Hamish Ross was a big part of it. He was my counterpart negotiating the protocol and so on back and forth, and Hamish was involved in that from the get-go. But Ernesto delivered a terrific event in Valencia in 07 with a number of cool lead-up regattas.
Yes.
And as he promised he would do, he raised a lot of money from the city, from sponsors and so on, and then split that money up, that revenue up, the proceeds up to the teams based on how they did in the Challenger Selection Series and ultimately the Cup. So his team got the big chunk. They won in 07. The Challenger was Team New Zealand. They got the second biggest chunk. The other finalist was Prada. They got a chunk. We got a chunk. Oracle Team USA as a quarterfinalist, and down Shosholoza, even, who was at the bottom of the South African team, even they got a chunk of money. And that was the first and last time that's really happened.
And that made so much sense. Oh,
well, and he exactly, Julia, and Ernesto was urging for that to happen again this time. Get everybody together, Grant. Don't use the event to fund your team. Fund your team privately.
Yes, as you should.
As you should. And then let all this money come together and spread it out among the teams. And you'll get more teams.
Yeah.
And they will benefit because they bring a lot to the event. It's the teams. Well, that wasn't happening, as you can see from this statement. That's what all this verbiage is about. Accountability, greater transparency, and new opportunities to perform not only individually, but as a group and deliver a commercially viable event. And there was big arguments going on in these Challenger meetings, one hears, for the last months, and that wasn't happening. Second thing that happened is they got the draft protocol. And I don't know if they sent it to me. I still don't know. Two teams sent it to me, and I don't know who those teams were. But two, I got, well, at least I assume it was from teams because I got 2 copies of it. Both said, please don't show anybody because we think it's been watermarked and we don't want somebody to see a watermark that's on it that identifies our copy of it. So I have it. So all of you who asked me for a copy of the protocol, I'm sorry, I'm not going to send it because I never reveal my sources, and I always do what my sources ask me to do, which is either don't report it or embargo it until a date down the road, or go public but don't show the document publicly, which, Alex Hayworth, Valencia are still paying back to the bank 10 million euro a year, but that was not just the America's Cup. That was also 2010. That was also that whole Formula One debacle when Valencia was hosting with their events hosting arm, Alex. And that was not the city of Valencia. It was the Comunidad. And they were corrupt. The officials were taking money into their pockets, the mayor and the president, who's dead, and the president of the Comunidad, which is, I think he went to jail, that's the region, the state. So yeah, they had a lot of problems. So the other thing that happened is when this protocol came out, there is the third, I showed you these on the other day, there's the 37th edition, and then the copies that I received were the 37th revision marked, redlined, with all the revisions in red. And there is the cover of one of the 2 that I got. And it made it amazingly easy for me a week ago today to go through in the morning and look at all the changes And one of the changes, as I told you then last Tuesday, was the so-called Burling rule. I called it that, which is that anybody who sailed with a team in AC 37 had to sail with that same team in AC 38, irrespective of their nationality. If Tom Slingsby, who's got an Australian passport, can't go sail with an Australian team in AC 38 because he sailed with New York Yacht Club in 37. And the big problem for the Swiss last time, as most of you will know, was that their sailing personnel were not up to snuff. Their design team, they had some problems with the boat, but who knows if it was operator error, or it was design error, combination of both when they were breaking rigs and so on and so forth. Point is, they needed to be able to get more people from outside of Switzerland in order to compete. In fact, the nationality rule was something we negotiated out of, when we were the Challenger of Record for 07, because Alinghi wanted to be able to recruit people far and wide, and they did, and they won. And so did the rest of the teams. And how many teams were there? There were a total of 13 teams in 2007, 12 teams?
Were there?
Yeah. 07 was a great event. There were a lot of teams. First time South Africa. You were there. And in Spain, and first time Germany, and Sweden, and on. So, it was a good event. And full marks to Mr. Bertarelli, not to be confused with Patrizio Bertelli, who is the team principal of Alinghi, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. So there's the protocol. I am not going to go into it again today, but it is croutonic. It is a putrid protocol, as I've called it. And Mr. Dalton and Mr. Green should both be embarrassed, because there are other provisions in it that make it so lopsided, so one-sided for the defender versus the rest of the challengers, that people are dropping out. I suspect Ben Ainsley is not going to be able to raise the money, and he too is going to drop out. I suspect. That is the Brits. And we'll see. But I'm not going to go into any more of that today. We're going to cover some more of that on Friday, because we want to talk about other things in our beloved sport besides the Americas. We're all getting tired of it because it's
the same story.
Yeah, it's the same old story. Of what? It's the da 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 da.
It's the same old story. It's a tale of love and glory.
Tale and love and glory. There we go, Julia. Well done. This is the ultimate responsibility. They are the worst trustee in the history of the Cup. It's the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. They should be ashamed of themselves and more. Mm-hmm. Because they have delegated their trustee authority and responsibility to the team in the persons of Mr. Dalton and his rules advisor, whom we wished happy birthday to at the top of the show, Russell Green. They should quit. They should stand down. They should resign. They've embarrassed themselves and New Zealand and our sport badly. The worst trustee in Cup history. No, Alex Hayworth, I doubt they'll be detrusted, but it's awful. And I'm not going to share the protocol with you, but I will talk about it in enumerated points of what's wrong with it and why it is so lopsided, so one-sided down the road. They can't resign. Yarvahe is saying, yes, they can resign. We're not going to go into that. But the other problem is the Challenger of Record, who were so weak last time. That is the Royal Yacht Squadron. That's their home island. That's the Isle of Wight, of course, and Cowes. And they, I suspect, are going to step down too. And one of the provisions in that protocol was that the defender could appoint a substitute Challenger of Record. Mm-hmm. That's, again, contrary to the deed of gift. There's so many things in this protocol which are strictly contrary to the deed of gift, are illegal in the New York law sense of the word illegality. Another of which is that this protocol provides for the defender, I can't help myself, provides for the defender and challengers to build their boats in any country in the world they so desire. In other words, what I call the CIC, and others call the CIC, the constructed in country rule, has been gutted. which leads me to believe, you think about this, I'm not going to put it out there, it leads me to believe they're going to choose a country as their challenger of record. They're going to build the boats in that country, and they are going to run the event in that country. Think about that. I'm not going to say more than that. But I think the Royal Squadron, the Royal Yacht Squadron and Sir Ben are going to be really challenged to raise money. I hope they can do it. I certainly want them back in. We want them back in. We certainly hope they're back in. Mark Wharton Reed, I'm sorry, but you've been way off base this week in your comments I almost cut your comments out and put them in the show, and then I didn't. But GGYC basically did some of the same. They certainly didn't take a deed of gift and run it contrary to they didn't run a protocol contrary to the deed of gift. But I was Vice Commodore when they moved the event to Bermuda, and they were starting to do some other things, including they did not appoint Luna Rosa's club after Hamilton dropped out. No, that's not quite true, Stingray. But Hamilton Island Yacht Club did drop out. We're going to talk about that in a subsequent show. But I resigned in disgust as Vice Commodore of Golden Gate Yacht Club because of some of their actions, including taking the event offshore. Mark Reed is asking who will take them to the New York Supreme Court. It's not clear to me anyone will take them to the Supreme Court, but they may. We'll see. We'll see how egregious this all. Maybe they'll modify. Maybe they'll come to their senses and reissue the protocol based on everything they're hearing and reading and say this is not correct. And maybe a challenger record, whether it's the Royal Yacht Squadron or somebody else, will have some cojones, Julia.
Yes.
And be tough and strong on behalf of all the challengers and say, sorry, we're not going to agree to this. None of us is going to agree to this. But I'm not so sure. Mark Holland, a friendly competition between foreign countries doesn't mean just testing sailors' abilities, but those of boat developers. Yes, it's a design competition as well, and that meant always complying with the deed of gift and at least building the boats in the country of the club, constructing the boats in the country of the club that you represented.
Yeah. The club seems to have sort of disappeared.
Well, the club has disappeared. They've completely dealt, and that's illegal under New York trust. You're all dragging me into this, the comments. Let me illustrate the probability of that with a propane torch and this here snowball. Yeah, okay. We shall see. I hope this all settles down. I hope it settles down. We have a proper America's Cup with multiple teams and one of the best cups ever in wherever it turns out to be, because it will be and remain the pinnacle of our sport. But then you read the New York Times this morning, and Sir Ben Ainslie, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's, this is the headline, America's Cup split, quote, most difficult thing I've been through. This is an article on the website called The Athletic, which the New York Times, by the way, bought and owns. And I believe it's on the New York Times website this morning and will be probably in the paper tomorrow if you've been looking for it, those of you who get the Times delivered. I'll take just a few excerpts from this very long piece. Sir Ben Ainslie is smarting from a public sporting divorce from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the British billionaire and part owner of Manchester United. Quote, it's probably the most difficult thing I've ever been through in my life from a personal or sporting perspective. Ainslie, a four-time Olympic champion and majority owner of Britain's Sail GP team, tells The Athletic of the end of his America's Cup partnership with the Ineos founder and chairman. Ineos alleged its decision to pull out was due to the, quote, protracted negotiations with Athena Racing, which Ainslie founded. Asked if he had a response to Ineos' most recent statement, Ainslie, the skipper and CEO of Great Britain's America's Cup Challenge for the past decade, was reticent. Quote, I don't know. I don't really want to get drawn on that, he says. Quote, I think most people can probably see it for what it is. We're just focused on our own role as challenger of record and continuing to pull forward, trying to win the cup for Britain. But Ainslie's involvement with the Manchester-born Ratcliffe is no more. His ambitions, however, remain lofty. He still wants to compete in the America's Cup, but having been dropped by his former backer, Ainslie needs to find large amounts of money and quickly if he has any serious prospect of continuing his quest to win the prestigious event, which has a heavy reliance on private patronage.
Yes.
Today, that's Andrew Rice, our good old friend Andy Rice from Great Britain, writing in The Athletic, and he's written that long series of pieces on SailGP. And this article indeed goes at great length into SailGP and to other aspects of our beloved sport. And I commend it and Andrew Rice's writing in The Athletic to you. The real problem, and everyone knows I talk to a lot of our Superfozy. In fact, we have, as you know, Julie, you're on it. We have a thread of the Superfozy, and we trade jokes and we trade serious stuff and links back and forth all day, every day.
Yeah.
And that's a couple dozen of us. And the three, however, the other two that I talk to a lot, there's no secret, are Magnus the Magnificent and, of course, Richard Gladwell. Sure, we talk with Hamish Ross. Sure, I talk to Claire Harrington. Sure, we talk to people in the teams themselves all around the world. But I talk a lot to Richard, and we share information, Richard and Magnus and I have enormous respect for those two. I often disagree with their conclusions or their analysis, though not always. In fact, probably agree more often than not. But the problem here for Sir Ben is that despite assertions you'll see other places, Ben does not own the assets. The boat, the AC-75s, including the last one, which got to the finals of the Challenger Selection Series, is owned by Ineos, is owned by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And this negotiation that went on between the two of them, one hears reliably, was over the assets. And Sir Jim said, well, you can have the assets, but you're going to pay me for them. And they couldn't come to an agreement because Sir Ben doesn't have any money because he doesn't have another backer, because you can go on and see his company records. He's 13 million pounds, British pound sterling, in debt on his company reports for the year, just this past year, and owning the team and bleeding money with Athena, yada, yada, yada. It's, this is a hard business. And I admire Sir Ben and his wife enormously for trying to do this, but it's a tough road to hoe. And they don't have the wherewithal to buy the assets. Therefore, they don't have a team, even though they got lots of loyal sailors. And one hears again that the Royal Yacht Squadron, has given them a drop-dead date of something like June 1st. I don't know. Andrew McIrvin says he hears that he does own them. No, he owns the AC-40s. He owns the Athena Racing AC-40s, but he does not own the AC-75, the America's Cup boats, and the IP, associated IP, and the containers after container after container of equipment. I have not, John Ammett, I have not put Ben's finances on here. It's public information. You can get it from, the company's house in the city in London. And I won't go further than that. I wish it would sort out. I wish Ben the best. And I also wish the Aussies the best, because there is another strong rumor, according to Magnus the Magnificent, in his Rule 69 Substack blog, that, and this is from today, Australia 2, TOO, are the Aussies about to make a popular, and it would be popular, popular comeback to the America's Cup in 2027. And there's a couple of nice photos here. This one in particular. Now, those are the ironically, those are the SailGP skippers in Sydney after the Sydney event. Cool stuff. Nice photo with Tom front and center. And I'll take a couple paragraphs one paragraph out of Magnus's long piece to say it today on Substack. The long Easter weekend clearly left a lot of people with time on their hands, judging by my inbox, but I do sincerely appreciate everyone that takes the time to email or text me. Magnus is saying, as do I. The America's Cup rumor mill is in a solid state of flow. I'd say it's a torrent. And whilst there are some wild and wacky rumors doing the rounds, there's one hugely positive one that really gets me excited, namely that Australia are nigh on certain, let me say that again, that Australia are nigh on certain to be one of the first entries when the protocol is launched in June, and entries are invited soon thereafter. If I've heard it once, I've heard it a dozen times, and for the sport, it's just fantastic.
For both of them.
And that is Magnus the Magnificent writing in his Magnus Wheatley's blog, Rule 69 blog. I'd love to see the Australians back in, but as I said to one of our super fozy this morning, it's more likely, Julia, you'll be the next Queen of England.
Really? Oh.
Or I'll be the next Pope, or maybe even you'll be the next Pope.
I know.
It's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
And this is, it used to take multimillionaires. Alan Bond wasn't a billionaire when he launched his cup efforts. Remember, that was over, 3 cups?
Yeah.
2 cups at least that he did before he won it. And this is an expensive proposition. And it's not, let's get a team together and start raising sponsors, which takes time, and then get cash in, and a third of it this year and a third of it next year and a third of it after we perform. You need the cash up front, which is the big advantage for people who are cash rich like Larry Ellison or Ernesto Bertarelli, as he was in taking those guys, the tight 5 away from New Zealand in 2003. He was ready to go rock and roll, hire designers, start spending money on design, and here we go. Ben can't do that because he doesn't have any cash, doesn't have a big backer. The Australians can't do that because they don't have any cash. The Winning family, which is widely purported to be the backers of a purported Australian effort, they're not poor, but are they rich on the level that it takes to do something like this? It's one thing to charter Comanche for the Sydney Hobart race and put a crew together. It's one thing to sponsor a Sydney Harbor 18 and do, which is great stuff, and it's fabulous for the sport, and it's a fabulous
it's great
family for Aussie and for the Australians and beyond.
Right.
But man, oh man, an America's Cup campaign is a huge undertaking, and not for the faint of heart. And
it grew rapidly.
Or the thin of pocketbook. Is that a mixed metaphor?
I don't know. But I mean, it used to take less than $1 million to do.
Well, yeah, back in the 60s and 70s. The 83, a campaign budget was $4 million.
Yeah.
In 87, the campaign budgets were $16 million. And by 92, they were 60, 70, $80 million. And now, I hate to think, if you do a back of the envelope of what Larry Ellison has done on the Cup, but to say nothing of Sail GP, what he spent on the Cup, it would be at least $500 million and probably more for the campaigns he did in 03, 07, and 10, 13, and 17. Remember, Larry's done 5 campaigns. Think about that.
I think...
Alistair Murray says, Australian challenge, would love it, but can't see it. Julia, you were about to say, I think.
I think that changing the finances would be lovely. And there's got to be a way to do that, meaning not do little smaller boats or do them as radically as you want, but there's got to be some way around doing that. You just can't keep going. It's going to be $1 billion to
exactly
do it in a
right.
minute.
Now you're leaning to the right, like your politics there. You got to. There you go. But you're exactly right. The Cup has always gone through an evolution to where it gets too expensive. Then there's a revolution, and then they start over, more reasonable, and then it gets more and more expensive. And it's at that point now.
Yeah.
If there are 3 teams at a European venue, that sounds like it's about it. Maybe 4. Does Grant Dalton effectively own the French team?
I don't know.
Will the French be his challenger of record?
If he chooses.
If this protocol stands and he can choose his challenger of record.
And the race against himself, and guess who's going to win?
So I think Magnus, who, he worked for Grant all through the last Cup, through Mr. Dalton. And I think he is Magnus, who's a good friend and a very smart guy, well connected, he is inclined to show that there are going to be as many challengers as possible, because Mr. Dalton's trying to find a venue. And the venues are not amused if there are not very many challengers. For there to be venue revenue, they need the more teams, the most number of teams they can get. The more teams, the merrier, not only in terms of good fun and competition on the water, but in terms of economic impact on shore.
Yes.
And that's, Magnus, remember 2 days before Sir Jim pulled out, he was writing about how Ineos was hiring people and hiring top skippers, and they were going to be great. And then, much to his amazement, Sir Ineos pulled out a couple days after he wrote that article.
Yeah.
There is Margarita Marshall talking about cool people. No hydrogen tenders, no AC-40, stay on the basics. Yes, that's the other problem. It's become so darn expensive for teams just to participate, let alone compete.
Yeah.
When you're required to buy a hydrogen tender, when you're required to fund AC-40s for youth and women's America's Cups, and on and on and on. So there's a plan from Clark Chapin. We're going to talk about plans maybe as early as Friday, but that's what Magnus has written. I'd love to see the Aussies in, but even the president emeritus of Australian Sailing, Alistair Murray, who's relaxing out in Metong, he knows it's probably not going to happen. Yeah. Right, enough on the cup. We'll talk some more about. Nice to see Margarita Marshall on. Her Margarita Marshall is John Marshall's wife. John Marshall is Margarita's husband. She is a photographer and writer, obviously Italian, longtime dear friend, one of the smartest people, coolest people in the cup that I've known over the last 45 plus years. Marcos Feinstein down in Long Beach. Sadly, the Euro fans and fast foiling boat sailors from outside the USA are the audience, not the old monohull sailors anymore. Due to regress, isn't possible to keep dollars coming in. Well, it's true. You've lost a lot of support from the traditional audience, which are the yacht clubs and the traditional sailing crowd. Yeah, foiling's with us. I fully support foiling in the sport, but the America's Cup has gotten away from us. And it starts with the trusty defender, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, having completely screwed the proverbial pooch.
Yeah.
Change the AC rules so that TP52s are used in the next cup. I mean, maybe a deed of gift match is not out of the possibility. Maybe, Julia, another deed of gift match like 1988 and 2010. Who knows?
Yeah.
What lurks in the hearts and minds? Okay, there's a tease. There's a tease.
I have an idea.
Okay, here we go. The last leg. Let's move on from the cup, shall we? We're an hour and 42 minutes into this show. We try to keep it under 2 hours. By the way, if you're just joining, a lot of new names and faces in the, names anyway, in the chat today. Welcome to all of you, new and old. We do this show every Tuesday and Friday at 1300 Pacific, and we co-stream it to Sailing Illustrated blog on Facebook and to the Sailing Illustrated TV channel on YouTube, and we thank you all for joining us.
And you can see it any time of day or night.
Yeah, exactly. Good point, Julie. You can watch it in replay, right?
Right. And you could watch, not that you will, 834.
Get it right. 827 show. This is our 827th show.
You can watch 827.
There you go. Well done. Thanks for that. Last leg. We're to the D block here almost. And speaking of the Congressional Cup, as we did at the top of the show, there are a couple of cool videos that have just shown up here in the last 24 hours, 36 hours from Long Beach, where the 60th Congressional Cup, the granddaddy of all these major match racing events, will take place next week. In the meantime, the Ficker Cup is taking place this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's the Congressional Cup qualifier for teams that haven't otherwise qualified or been invited to Con Cup. And that will that'll qualify 2 more teams into next week's Congressional Cup. This first video is looking back to some of the, this is a long and storied event history, cool event. It's where we started umpiring way back in 1988. Hard to believe. But some famously cool people have sailed in this event. One of the things that makes it, Julia, as you know, so much fun is because it is social. There's a dinner early in the week where each of the skippers has to get up and talk. And, you know, some of them love to do it. Some of them hate to do it. But they all get better at it with each passing year if they've been back, including the 3 you're about to see. They had Crutonic starts and well, watch. It's fun.
With the 60th anniversary edition of the legendary Congressional Cup Regatta, staged by the Long Beach Yacht Club, another look back at the event's historic past, with the incredible victory by America's Cup-winning skipper, Ed Baird, in the 2004 final over Terry Hutchinson, the 1992 winner of the Congressional Cup, in a most extraordinary final.
So the finals the year that I won was really unusual. I'm sure there's not another one like it. It was a one-race final because we had run out of time on the last day.
Getting lighter, top mark, Ed Baird just a bit higher towards the mark, made a slight gain. There's the hoist, Spinnaker going up. All they have to do now, it's about 500 yards to the finish line. Ed Baird follows in. He's probably made a few boat lengths, but nothing really to threaten Hutchinson at the moment. Fantastic set there, absolutely.
We were still behind, but those guys turned and sailed off for the big right-hand shift. It wasn't there anymore.
First class. Ed Baird jibing away. Oh, Terry Hutchinson in no breeze at all. Look at that on the right-hand side. Absolutely nothing in the Spinnaker. Ed Baird jibing away, looking for the pressure. That's Andy Horton calling the breeze on the other side. Chris Larson, tactician on Terry Hutchinson's boat, looks a little upset. The stress levels increasing on board as Ed Baird picks up the breeze.
Oh, guys, you're giving it to him! You gotta get on! This is so unfair!
Oh, Terry Hutchinson can just see it slipping away. He's so upset.
Guys, I can't believe we let this happen.
Oh, it's a heartbreaker for Hutchinson, but that's match racing, and Ed Baird and his crew take the 2004 Congressional Cup.
Crimson Club Blazer.
Wow, fantastic. You know, this trophy is just filled with incredible names. I mean, just looking here, I'm looking at Ted Turner and Dennis Durgan, and I mean, it's just an amazing list of people who are the who's who of our world of sailing over the years. So it's a great privilege to be part of that team and, you know, to have won here.
Coming up here, the end of April into the first week of May, the 60th edition of the Grand Mammy, granddaddy of them all, and also a member of the World Match Racing Tour, the Congressional Cup. Yeah, I don't. T. Hutch was. I don't know what was so unfair about that, except maybe Lady Luck. But there's two of the best sailors, greatest sailors in the modern history of our sport, and certainly from this country. A lot of people don't realize, Julie, that Ed Baird won the America's Cup. He was a Lingy skipper in 07. And, you know, people, because Ernesto got all the publicity and because it was in Spain and not, you know, over here, it wasn't in Newport or it wasn't, but he wasn't sailing for an American team.
Right.
Sailing for a Swiss team. Talk about the eligibility rules. Right. And being relaxed so that they could recruit people like him. Remember, Russell Coots got fired after the 03. He got fired.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
There, I used my cough switch.
Congratulations.
To cough. Now, this is I see Billy Lynn's on here. And Bill Lynn, I call him Billy because I knew his mom and dad so well, and Bill Sr. and his mother, the late, great Gay Lynn, both of them were major contributors to our sports. Nice to see Bill on here, who is president and executive director of the America's Cup Hall of Fame and also the Hyères Maritime Museum up in Bristol, Rhode Island, a longtime friend, known Billy since he was literally a tyke. And he just is mentioning that, yeah, they're both members of the America's Cup Hall of Fame, or at least Ed is. I'm not sure that Terry is, right? Fritz Mueller is going to run. Will the Con Cup attract Ian Williams? Yes. Sadly, Stingray, he will not be there except maybe as a coach. I questioned Lisa Meyer, who's the Commodore, talking with her the other day or texting with her. It was too late for them to try to squeeze Ian Williams and Taylor Canfield back in the Con Cup because they had a conflict initially, and the conflict was, of course, the Rio Sail GP event.
Oh, that's right.
But once that got canceled, then it was possible for Ian Williams, the current, he was the last year's winner.
Right.
Or did Ian win last year? But he's won a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And Taylor Canfield, who's also won a bunch of times, it was possible for them now to come, but it was too late. They'd have to do.
Because they don't have an age limit. I mean, that's...
Well, this is no age limit at all. It wasn't too late. It was just too difficult, John Sangmeister, as you know, being there. Billy is a great Tufts jumbo sailor, too, from the day. Fritz Mueller saying Bill Lynn. Yep, Bill Lynn's a terrific sailor. Lives up in Marblehead, don't you, Bill? You still Marblehead and commuting down to Rhode Island every day, or nearly? Okay, now there's another video, one more video, and this goes back a little bit further with three of the best-known people in our, modern history of our sport.
Staged annually by the Long Beach Yacht Club, the Congressional Cup Regatta is steeped in history and tradition. And in this momentous 60th anniversary year, we begin our look back in time at some of the greatest competitive sailors at the famed Meet the Skippers dinner.
Well, one of the great things about the Congressional Cup, of course, you want to perform well on the water, but it's essential if you're a skipper to have a really good speech at the dinner.
It's great. I really came back. I was surprised by the invitation because I haven't been very active lately, and this is really a top-notch league for America's Cup or Australia Cup hopefuls, and I'm kind of a has-been, but it's better to be a has-been than it ever was. And one good thing about the Congressional Cup is nobody from overseas has ever won it yet, and even if they do, they're not going to be able to take it home.
I'm thrilled to be here. The Long Beach Yacht Club has done such a terrific job with this event over the years. A couple days ago, I had lunch with Ted Turner, and that was the good news. The bad news is, that some of the people here really know how to sail, and they're at the top of the sport. And I understand that, Harold Cudmore is one of the best paid professionals, and he makes $100 for an event like this.
Dennis was worried about the age problem, but Dennis, don't worry. Ted and you and I don't look so bad when we compare ourselves with a jury. As Dennis said, there's no free lunches. I'm about to pay for that one.
I was there. I was on that jury, in fact.
I was going to say, I bet you were on that jury.
Oh, man, that was before umpiring. And the best after-dinner speaker, bar none, was Harold Cudmore.
Oh, you've always said that.
He was funny. And the other thing, Congressional Club used to be in the middle of March over St. Patrick's Day. And of course, Harold was the toast of the town, not only at the yacht club, but down on 2nd Street at the Irish bars.
Yeah.
Can we teleport back to the old days somehow? Yeah, I don't know. It's not hard to do. It's when the Irish charm, Yar Vahe, is saying great personalities. But that's what makes the Congressional Cup so great. It's actually what makes the Governor's Cup. And we're going to start into the road to the Governor's Cup here in due course, because Andy Rose and the gang at Balboa Yacht Club, Christine, our chairman, and the rest of that gang down there have made the Governor's Cup the Junior Congressional Cup.
Yes.
And the skippers all speak on the Monday night, this year the Tuesday night dinner. And it's a fabulous event.
It really is fun to watch.
As is Con Cup. So it'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
and tough.
And tough. I mean, to look at the lineup of sailors. We'll talk about that on Friday. We'll preview the Congressional Cup on Friday and see if Scott Poole can three-peat. Chris Poole. You know why I call him Scott Poole? I used to coach a kid in hockey in Ann Arbor named Scott Poole, and I knew his family well, and he's a good kid. He's still around. And I always call Chris Poole Scott Poole.
Well, that's reasonable.
Okay. Anything else? The Rhode Island Rover. Oh, the glory days. Andrew McIrvin. Ed was in Cowes last weekend with the Jolt Admirals. What is the Jolt Admirals Cup team? Andrew? Irish Admirals Cup team. Okay, Julia.
Sir.
Let's get to the well and truly to the D block in your favorite segment, and it is a large one today. Are you ready?
Sure.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, our series of funnies at the end of the show. And here's the first one. They're making fun of me again. Well, at least we know the motive. Huh?
Yeah.
The guy that's been chalked on the ground, who's dead,
The banjo player.
has a banjo in his hand. At least we know the motive. That from Rick Bannero. But wait, Rick was not done. He sent this T-shirt. We'll play for free. We'll stop for cash. Huh?
Yep.
And then he sent this one too. You couldn't just grab a life preserver like everyone else?
No.
Those are three. In fact, there were more, but those are the three that Rick sent. And he's making fun of me.
Yes.
And everyone else does. And I have such thin skin. I'm so insecure, Julia.
I know.
It's really hard.
Too bad.
Okay, get your finger ready because we got a couple of questionable ones. We have never, first, this one's okay. We have never found a cave painting of a salad. Huh?
And for a reason.
That gets applause, right?
Yes.
That's from Ted Ryman. Okay, here's the next one. Speaking of eating, what's the difference between an oral and a rectal thermometer?
Oh.
The taste. Julia?
Yes.
Give it a finger wag if you want. That's for Ryman also. Then for the worst pun, the puniest, punniest, most putrid pun of the week, you can't run through a campground. You can only ran because it's past tense.
Oh.
Huh?
Oh.
I laughed. I laughed. That's from Gordon Smith.
Yes.
The intellectual that he is would send in something like that.
Yes.
But they get better here, Julia. You ready?
Okay.
I used to be Christian. Oh, apropos the Pope and Easter, and I had to run this. Shh. I don't care whatever religion you are. What's important is that I love you. Damn it. He didn't let me finish. I used to be Christian. Now I'm Christine. Huh? That's from Ryman.
Oh, that's a Ryman joke.
That's a Ryman joke in Cape Town. But that was pretty good, don't you think?
Yes.
I mean, somebody asked me
Timely.
if you were a Christian, or what somebody asked me as a kid in class. I'm not joking. And I said, was I Christian? No, they asked me if I was Presbyterian, I think. And who in the class, maybe the teacher said, who in the class is Methodist or I don't remember what she said. And I put my hand up and said, not me, I'm Sagittarius. I did not, that teacher called my parents in finally and told them that I was giving her a hard time, which
you were.
I was not. Okay, Julia, just letting you know the book, Understanding Women, is now out in paperback.
Oh.
Huh?
Well, somebody should read it.
Well, good point. That's from Greg Phillips down in Oz. And for equal time, Julia, we have these men, finally, blonde men jokes. I told you we had a lot this week. A blonde man is in the bathroom and his wife shouts, quote, "Did you find the shampoo?" He answers, "Yes, but I'm not sure what to do. It's for dry hair and I just wet mine." What?
Yes.
You want to read the next one?
A blonde man spots a letter on his doormat. It says in the envelope, "Do not bend." He spends the next 12 hours trying to figure out how to pick it up.
2 hours, but who's counting? A blonde man shouts frantically into the phone, "My wife is pregnant and her contractions are only 2 minutes apart. Is this her first child?" asks the doctor. "No," he shouts, "this is her husband." Come on, that's funny.
It is funny.
Huh?
Yes.
That's from my daughter, Meg. I was wondering if she was trying to tell me something.
I know, I was going to say. Yeah.
Well, that last joke, Julia.
Yes, I wonder.
Huh?
I wonder.
Her husband, Aaron, probably didn't think that was that funny, and he's not blonde either. Oh, he's kind of blonde. Okay, Julia, we got to wrap up here with sailing. There are 3 physiques: the gym physique on the left, the bike cycling physique in the middle, and the sailing physique on the right. Clay Dembley sent that one in.
Yes.
And finally, to end this on a positive note, I sail, and I've used this before, but I had to wrap up with this, a sailing one. I sail because for golf, soccer, and tennis, you only need 1 ball.
Yes.
Huh? Thumbs up?
Yeah.
Good one?
Yeah.
That's from the International Fin class. The International Fin Association said that. Okay, Julia, it's exactly 1500. We're on 2 hours even for this show. We are through on show 827 for this Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. Alan Long is also a Sagittarius. And we don't hate anybody, Stingray. We don't hate trans people. We don't hate anybody on this show. We appreciate everybody, even Mark Reed, who I got short with earlier this week and on the show. But we are truly, well and truly, Julia, to the finish line. And you like to say,
do not miss this opportunity to give us a boost by following, and sharing.
Indeed. And comments are welcome. As you said earlier in the show, even in replay. And a lot of people watch the show in replay. A lot of people also give us some money so we can keep our studio funded and our exorbitant streaming costs. So I got to find a substitute. Anybody has a good idea for a substitute for Skype, which is technically better than Zoom? I've been using Skype for some time. I don't like Teams. We're going to find a substitute for that so that when we have guests on live, we can have a high-quality experience for everybody, including the guest at the other end. Thank you for your support via Patreon. Those of you who are patrons, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We appreciate very much your support. Julia, we also appreciate those who give us images, video, and audio for these shows. Final thoughts?
Oh, no. I have none, really.
Well, happy belated Easter.
Yes.
Happy Earth Day.
Yes.
And we'll see you Friday.
Can hardly wait.
Can hardly wait. Thanks, everybody. See you then. Have a great rest of your week. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.